Finally, I'd like the leaders of Europe to say to the Greek authorities that in exchange for the effort that you're making, you're going to get support from us.
Je vous donne un conseil. Un des problèmes de la Grèce, c'est son budget pour la défense. 4,3% du PIB grec passe à la défense. Quel est le problème? C'est Chypre, c'est la relation avec la Turquie. Où est l'initiative de la Commission pour régler le problème de Chypre?
Poor Greece, trapped inside the economic prison of the euro. Poor Greece, trapped inside the modern-day Volkerkerker, for which it appears there is no way out. What Greece needs, Mr Barroso, is devaluation, not sadomonetarism. Goodness knows what that's going to do to them.
To fully support the Commission's approach vis-à-vis Greece, it's come months late.
The European Union must be in a position to defend itself against market attacks. In the event of further speculation against individual countries,
in generations to come, children will be told a story. They'll be told that once upon a time Europe was divided. There was a big wall down the middle of it, and the people in the East were very poor, and they had no democracy, and they lived under an evil system called communism that killed millions of its own people. But joy of joys, the wall came down, and we finished up with 27 nations, and those people lived in democracy, and 500 million people lived in peace. But sadly, no, there is more. I promise you there's more. Put it up the tires. Thank you. I should just sit down now. Well, I must say, that's the first time I've ever received such applause, and I'm tempted, Mr Verhofstadt, I am tempted to sit down, but if I may, sadly the story continues, the politicians in charge became very greedy, and they wanted money for themselves, and they wanted power, and so they resorted to lies and deceit, and they staged the most spectacular bureaucratic coup d'état that the world had ever seen. But they didn't need to use any bullets to do it. They were much cleverer, much more scheming than that. No, what they did is they put in place a new treaty. It was called the Lisbon Treaty. And then they gave 27 people total unlimited power. These were to be the people that made all the laws. Of course, they already had a flag and they already had an anthem, but they went about building a new state. But they ignored the people. And what they did, whether they knew it or not, is they recreated the very evil system that the people in Eastern Europe had lived under before. But the incredible thing was that many of the new bosses had also worked for that same evil system before. Well, of course, the plan was flawed, and their fanciful monetary scheme collapsed. But still, the new bosses wouldn't listen to the people. No, They made life tougher and tougher. They put tens of millions into poverty. They denied people a say. And in the end, those people had to resort to violence to get back their nation states and their democracy. And the moral of the story is they had learnt nothing from history. Members of the European Parliament, before you give this Commission power, remember that 60 years ago, an Iron Curtain came down on Europe. That now, with this Commission, there is an economic iron fist, and it's being felt in Greece today. We cannot build
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Europe for Freedom and Democracy next, President Nigel Farage.
We're in the presence of a great man today, the President of Europe, a man who is so important. He is beyond criticism, beyond reproach. He is the king of the modern political class. He is the modern-day Zeus, and he intends to rule us from Mount Berlaymont and woe betide anybody that questions his authority or questions his dignity, or they will face severe punishment. Indeed, in my case, the last time we met, and I had one or two things to say, the Parliament imposed the maximum possible fine. And I'm told that if I say anything that upsets you, the microphone will be cut off. Well, what price free speech? What price democracy? But you've come back to us today, and now with the approval of Mr Sarkozy and Angela Merkel, you're the head of a new economic government for 500 million people. And you've launched your 10-year plan, your wish list, and I just wonder, have you remembered what happened to the last 10-year plan that was launched in 2000? It was launched in this Parliament to much acclaim. It was a total and utter crippling failure even before the global recession hit. And in fact, all centralised EU plans fail. Just look at the disastrous, ruinous common fisheries policy. And now your beloved euro has failed. It's failed politically at its first major hurdle. You weren't able to come up with a plan at that summit. You can't bail out Greece without the International Monetary Fund coming in to save, at least for the moment, your euro dream. And yet, Mr Van Rompuy, your plan seems to be, we're losing, we're failing, let's have more of the same. Let's have more Europe, let's have more failure. But what really matters is the loss of democracy here. You have not been elected. You are not accountable. There is no mechanism for the peoples of Europe to remove you. It was Zeus, of course, that kidnapped Europa. My fear is you are kidnapping our democracy. You are only here because that Lisbon Treaty went through without the British people being given the referendum that they were promised. And as far as we're concerned, this is unfinished business. People fought and died so that we could be an independent, self-governing, democratic nation that was able to hire and fire its leaders, and no one that believes in democracy will accept the post of President of the European Union. Thank you.